Hi everyone, welcome to Couchbase Coding with Matthew Groves. This is a 10-minute slice of my day as a developer advocate here at Couchbase, live on Twitch every day at Matthew D. Groves. Check out old episodes on YouTube. Send me questions, comments on Twitter or email. Before we start, some quick business. I had some medical work done today, so the Novocaine hasn't worn off completely. That's why I might sound a little different. And it's also why my webcam is off. I'm also going to blame it if I say too many so's and ums. All right, so yesterday I went over a bullet point 2 of my mission statement. Why am I doing this streaming? Why am I live streaming? My goal is to be a better developer advocate. And number 3 of that list is I want to build up a library of videos that help people. They're going to search for these terms, and it's going to be useful content for them if they're trying to solve a problem or trying to learn more about Couchbase or whatever else I decide to stream about. All right, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about the REST API available in Couchbase. And I use that word REST because that's what's in our documentation. I know that REST can be something of a thorny word to use. People get really upset if you don't mean a specific thing. So what I mean by REST is it's just an API that Couchbase has made available over HTTP to accomplish various admin tasks. So part of my job is I go and try to help with forums and Stack Overflow to answer questions when I can. I don't spend a lot of time on this compared to other tasks, but I do like to do this to keep in touch with what's going on and the problems people are having, and to get ideas for blog posts and so on. And also get ideas for live streaming, as it turns out. So this is a question on Stack Overflow. It's a user trying to create a bucket in Couchbase using and they call it HTTP post request. They're basically using the REST API. And so this is what they tried to do. They tried to go to this endpoint here, and I assume this means localhost. They omitted that. But that's the correct endpoint to edit or create buckets. And then they have all this information here, like the name of the bucket, called new bucket, and how much RAM to assign that bucket, and so on. Kind of a low amount of RAM, actually. But all this information is right here in the query string. So this is the first thing that kind of makes me suspicious what's going on, because it's a post request, but all this data is here in the query string. That doesn't really check out. And so he posts the error that he's getting. And I must admit there that this error actually is maybe a little bit confusing if you're not used to REST or you're not used to what Couchbase returns for error messages. Because the error is invalid auth type, which is kind of confusing because up here auth type is specified as none. So it's a little bit what's going on here. And what I think that a better error message would be must specify auth type, or auth type is missing, or something along those lines. So I might want to go ahead and create a ticket to improve the error message or improve the REST interface. I'm not really sure at this point. But let's just try to solve his problem right now. What I think is going on is that this stuff should be in the body of the post request, not in the query string itself. Stuff in the query string would be more along the lines of a GET request. All right, so look over here at comments. Looks like Calvin Allen's finally joined, and he's just taking his time to bother me with some terrible jokes. That he loves REST. He does it every night. So thank you for joining us, Calvin, even though your jokes are lame. I appreciate you joining the live stream. Okay, and so he's also specified that he's used Postman right here, which is good because I also like to use Postman. So what I'm going to do is first I can switch over to Couchbase. You can see that I only have one bucket, just travel sample right now. No other buckets in here. If you look over here at the documentation, you can see that, yeah, he was using the right place. But it says that the request data should be a list of payload parameters for the new bucket. So maybe we want to change this documentation to be more specific, or it's possible that the details of where to put these parameters has been mentioned somewhere else up in the hierarchy of documentation. But if I'm Googling it, maybe I'm just landing here. So this might be a good candidate for improvement as well. But here's all the different arguments, and those are the ones he specified: auth type and bucket type and name and so on. So he's got most of it right. And I don't want to single this guy out, Vartika on Stack Overflow, as you know, this is easy mistake to make. This is definitely something that you can do that I've done before as well, putting the parameters in the wrong place or putting them in JSON or whatever. So bring up Postman here next. So I've got that Couchbase running locally, so it's localhost 8091, and it's to the right endpoint there. Now the difference is, well, so first of all, authorization. With the REST API, for the most part, if you need authorization, you need to use basic auth. So I've put my Couchbase administrator and password here in Postman, which does all the dirty work of base64 encoding that for me, which is very nice. And also puts in a nice little, so you see here, it puts the nice little basic auth header. And I've also selected for body, I selected form URL encoded. This is what the endpoint I think is actually expecting. Now, another thing to point out is he's using Couchbase 4.5. I'm using Couchbase 5.5. So it's a little different with the authorization. That's actually one of the breaking changes between 4.x and 5.x is authorization is a little stricter in Couchbase. We've got some more comments in here from Parsit07, who's just making fun of Calvin, it looks like, and Bill Semph, who I named the first episode after. Thank you for joining, Bill, and watching the live stream. So here we go, authorization. I'm setting none on the bucket. Actually, in Couchbase 5, you don't authorize on the bucket anymore, so this is kind of a backwards compatibility thing. The name of the bucket, my bucket. Let's just call this, let's call it Hi, Bill and Calvin, and Parsit. I'm not sure who Parsit is, but I'll name the bucket in your honor there. And I think the minimum is actually 100 megabytes for a bucket for RAM quota. So we'll go ahead and do that. So send it off, and I get back a 202 as a response, so that's a good thing. No body here, but the 202 means that it succeeded. So if I go back over to the Couchbase console, there we have a new bucket. Hi, Bill and Calvin and Parsit. And so there we go. The bucket is created. So what did we learn today? We learned that you have to look carefully at what the API is actually expecting. It might be you need to post JSON. You might need to post form encoded values if it's a post. If it's a GET, you probably don't have anything in the body. You probably just want to have something in the query string there. And we've also learned that we could probably stand to improve the error message here in the validation errors array, and we could probably stand to maybe make this a little clearer about what exactly do you mean by payload parameters in here, or maybe a link to another page that does spell that out. Okay, so that's it, and so maybe next time we'll actually go through creating a pull request for documentation here. This is Couchbase is very similar to Microsoft's new method of open sourcing all the documentation on GitHub and making it very easy for you to submit pull requests to the documentation. So maybe we'll go through that next time and submit some changes and see if those would be helpful changes or not. Okay, so that's it for today. Tomorrow I will be at the Momentum Conference in Cincinnati, so the stream will not be until probably in the evening, Eastern time. So I will still try to go ahead and do it, but don't look for it at 12:30ish. It'll be later than that. Another comment from Parsit. Your stream footer and header are a bit too large. Maybe you can make them at least 0.5-inch height, because this really shifts the focus from your content. So I assume you're talking about the links at the top and bottom of the screen here. So I can consider doing that. I wanted to make them legible. So if you think they're still legible, if they're smaller, then I can go ahead and make that adjustment for a future stream. So thank you again for the feedback, Parsit. I believe you're the same guy who suggested a lower resolution as well. So that's worked out so far. So thank you very much for the feedback. And please, if you're watching this not on the live stream, send some feedback to the email address or the Twitter address there at the top of the screen. I'd love to hear your comments, suggestions, and ideas. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you all tomorrow.